What's up, Sea Live Youth? We are so excited that you're going to get to join us tonight for a special edition of Momentum Online. Now, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that there's so much happening in our world right now in regards to racial tension, and we wanted to speak right to the issue. And so what we've done is we've gathered up a group of our friends, some leaders, some students, some people within our ministries who have been affected in one way or another by racial tension. And that's important to us, and not just because our friends have personally been affected by this, but also because the Bible speaks so clearly to unity, justice, and love. Did you know that when Jesus, before he died, he prayed for our unity? He knew that the world was going to look at the church someday and was going to decide whether or not Christ's words were true based on how unified we were. And I want to be really clear. Unity doesn't necessarily mean uniformity. Like, there's a lot of room here for some nuances in this conversation, for some differences of opinions. And it's important to us that tonight we're clear that we're not speaking on behalf of really everybody, that there's not a broad stroke that's being painted here by us. I mean, we've got several police officers and people that work in law enforcement who love Jesus and are crazy about the Lord, who serve right here at Sea Life. You know, I don't speak on behalf of all white people. I don't speak on behalf of all pastors here tonight. What's important to us is that we just begin this conversation. And so I want to ask you, as we start this journey here, that you would view all this through the lens of love, that you would come to the table tonight just ready to learn, ready to experience something, ready to maybe have a shift in your opinion some. And tonight to just really dig in and to get to know somebody else who you didn't know before. God bless you guys tonight as we start this one. We'll see you here next week. We're so excited for what will come from this. Right now we're gathered here to just talk about this thing, this elephant in the room that it seems like has been present for a long time, but we really haven't acknowledged in any kind of meaningful way. And now we're getting around to this as a culture and as a church. And I'm looking at my own life and looking at the ways that I've just kind of let this pass me by. And I'm realizing right now there's so much to be said and there's so much to think about in regards to race and racism and racial tension that so many of y'all have experienced. And so I just want to start this time together, this panel this evening, by just opening up with just what your experience has been in regards to racism and racial tension. And I ask this for this reason. And this is my hope with this whole thing. This is the prayer of your youth ministers in your church right now, is that as we start to understand the experience and the stories that are here before us tonight, we'll learn how to love our neighbor, love our brother, empathize, care for one another in a much deeper way, a way that I believe Jesus himself would. So I want to just open it up right now with that question. What's your experience with racism been like? How have you experienced racial tension over the years? Where have you seen this here recently?
Recently, my husband and I, we went to a restaurant to eat dinner. We had our 3 younger kids with us. And upon finishing, the waitress came back and she asked if we wanted separate checks. Now, we clearly come together. We rode in the same vehicle. We were sat at the same table. But for whatever reason, she didn't think that we were together. And she even positioned herself with her back to me and her full front, to my husband to say, hey, did you want a separate check? And so that's a little bit, of the things that we deal with going out.
Yeah, just
in the
sneaky
community.
little things that, like, if you were to point it out too,
Right.
might be like, whoa, what are you talking about there?
Yeah.
But just there's like this undercurrent to it. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What else?
The same thing has actually happened to me. I was with a friend. I spent the day at a friend's house, and his whole family's white, and I was the only African American there. And we go to Chili's, and for some reason the waitress asked, "Do you want separate checks?" And I made the comment, "No, the baby's gonna pay for herself." And she started laughing. Yeah, I was so confused because why would we need separate checks? and it's just one of the things we deal with. Also, another time I had a friend who I got in an argument with, and he ended up calling me the N word. And we were in about fourth grade, and at that age,
Yeah, you're like, where did you pick that up?
where do you learn that?
Yeah.
So, and knowing that word can offend someone like me, you have to learn that from somewhere. So, you just you just have to keep going because you'll never know why people think the way they do. So,
Neil.
Well, I think we've all been affected by it in a different way. But me, I've experienced it a couple of times because my parents are both black and I'm obviously black. Um, I've experienced it at restaurants, movies, out in public, where there have been other people that I know are believers in God but have said nothing about the comments that have been made towards me or about me. Like, one time I was walking through the mall with my youth group, actually, and um, someone walked by and made a very nasty comment towards me, and you could tell that it hurt my feelings, but no one spoke up and said anything. I didn't say anything. No one in the group said anything. But when we had gotten back to the house, it was just like, how could you let someone say that to you and not speak up about it? And my response to that was, if I would have spoken up about it, it would have caused a scene. And scenes are not the greatest thing for people of color.
Yeah, and the silence from your friends. I mean, I'm just imagining in my own life and things I've seen throughout the years. The silence actually says a lot, right?
If I could add to that. I have been inside different houses of God and have experienced not just the silence because it comes in different forms, silence. Maybe they said something out loud and no one stood up for you, or maybe you are that person of color inside the house of God and no one even noticed you,
Yeah.
like you didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Where you will come up and you'll speak to my husband, but you will not speak to me. And again, we can't afford to be the angry black people.
Right. Right.
We just don't have that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Then you're moved right into another
Another category.
stereotype, another
Yes.
category, whatever. Yeah.
Yep, stereotypical black. Oh, she went off. Oh, she did this. There she
Yeah,
goes.
yeah.
Yep. Or, and in his case, him being the size and the stature he is,
Yeah.
he can't afford to make a scene in public.
Yeah.
Because obviously, despite the disparaging remark, that's just going to blow over. And like KJ said, that's something that we have to deal with all the time.
Yeah. Neil, I think it was you earlier while we were together, just huddled up talking about some things. You were just talking about a time that you'd been pulled over, and it's just a routine stop. It was like, for any other reason, for somebody that wasn't black, this probably wouldn't be a huge deal. And you were just telling us that it was like a negligent amount over the speed limit that you were going. You ended up getting pulled over. And one thing that, as he was telling me this story, that just stuck with me is you were running through this checklist in your head. Like, tell me about that.
So, like, the checklist is for a male: get your wallet out of your back pocket, get anything that you think the officer might need out of wherever it is. Make sure you have no bulges in your pockets. Make sure you don't have baggy things on.
Yeah, like no sudden movements, no reaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And always be sure to have someone on the phone. No matter who it is,
Yeah.
it's always the one person that you know is going to answer wherever they are.
Yeah. Which is, it's so different than my experience, because as he was telling the story, I was thinking, I got pulled over 3 or 4 nights ago, had a busted headlight, and my experience was totally different. I'm like, going through the glove compartment, trying to find my ID and shuffling things around and just hoping I don't get a ticket or something from this experience here. Not once did it ever cross my mind that like something more foul could be going on here, that I could lose my life or be in danger. I never thought I need to get my wife on the phone, nothing like that. It never crossed my mind. But for you guys, I mean, that just seems like that's the experience.
That's like an everyday worry when you drive or when you walk on the street in your own neighborhood. That's the scariest part. It's so close to home.
Yeah. So it just kind of leads me to the next question, I guess. Like you're saying, it just hits close to home. You know, they mentioned this on Sunday night, and we had talked a little bit about it earlier, but does it seem like racism is getting worse, or does it seem like it's just getting filmed right now? Does it seem like, are we making progress right now? Or, you know, there's some people I think that would look around and say, what's the big deal? What's the problem? I don't understand it. And there's others that would say, no, there's something going on here.
I think it's getting filmed. I feel as though racism could be a lot worse if it wasn't being filmed. I feel like people that commit racist acts, if they have the knowledge or they realize they are being filmed, they will try to tone down their racism maybe. But I also think racism is generational. It's a learned behavior. You inherit it. It's taught.
Yeah.
So I feel as though if nothing is changed through people learning from their parents, then it won't get better. It'll stay the same. No progress will be made, and nothing will change. It will be at a flat line.
Yeah.
I feel like it's getting worse because it is being filmed. There are people who will act out for the camera, and I don't see the reasoning behind why people do that, but it is what it is. And racism will always be a thing that's always going to be around.
So my wife and I have been married for 21 years, been together for 24. I thought it was 23. I got corrected, but that's beside the point. For a long time, and we have seen and been through a whole lot. And from my point of view, it's definitely getting better than what it was in the past, but it is also being filmed. There is so many more. You got to think, back in the day, there was no camera phones.
Yeah.
There was no anything like that. So you wouldn't hear about anything unless somebody reported it to the news camera.
Yeah.
I remember being at a friend's house when I was younger, and there was a drive-by down the street, and people got killed. And I looked for it on the news, and I never heard anything about it. And it wasn't until later that my friend said, "Oh, this is Pleasant Grove. They don't report anything over here," just because of where we were at. So I definitely think I think it's getting better, but I think it's being recorded. But I want you to think about, when you say that it's getting better, that just last year it was worse.
Yeah.
The year
How much
before that
worse was it
worse.
before? Yeah.
How bad was it?
Yeah.
So when you think about people being angry about it, and you think about people being upset, and all these emotions, and like, oh, they're being very emotional. Yes. Sometimes this has not only happened to KJ, but it's happened to KJ's dad, and not only to KJ's dad, but KJ's grandfather, and it's happened again and again and time. It's happened to you that we've been talking for 10 minutes, and it's happened to you. I could tell 3 or 4 stories of things that are that's just wrong. It should have never happened to you.
The sad part is that I'm going to have to teach my kids about racism and what they're going to have to face. Progress should be made. We shouldn't have to keep having the same talk over and over and over.
Yeah.
And if people would come together and do something, we could actually make progress. And my heart rate wouldn't have to go up to 100 when I'm pulled over.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to make sure nothing's in my pockets. I shouldn't have to keep my license right here and my hands on the steering wheel. I shouldn't be scared or worried if I'm going to leave where I'm pulled over.
Yeah.
My mom shouldn't have to worry if I'm coming home when I go out. And she does, and that's the sad part.
Wow.
talked about it earlier. I think your dad talked about it on Sunday, and it really hit home for me. A lot of people think of when their teenager leaves the house, oh, I hope they don't bang up the car, or I hope they don't mess up my insurance and my insurance raises. When some parents have to deal with, I hope my child makes it back home alive. I really just want you to grasp that and think about it. I hope you make it home alive.
Yeah, just from hearing this so far, I mean, it's just such a different world. I just can't quit emphasizing that. Like when I just think about when I walk out the front door, I don't, this never pops into my mind. I never think about how I'm going to be profiled, stereotyped, judged, nothing like that. Especially, I think for all of us, you would probably say that there's some things that are really normal and routine that are infinitely harder for you guys in some ways, because it's like, people are judging me here for the color of my skin. It has nothing to do with my character or my personhood or anything. I've never experienced that before. And just hearing that, I mean, it challenges the ways that I want to live my life and my thinking. And, if you're watching this here tonight, I think it'd be a great time just for you and your group to either hit pause on this video or maybe jot down a question right now for you guys to come back to. But what has your experience been in regards to racism and how it's affected your life? Do you know anybody that has been affected by this? Has it affected you personally? Are there ways that your heart has been changed by this discussion or discussions like this? I mean, what is it that has happened in your life that you can recognize has been affected by racism? And, you made mention of this, Terry, that you've walked into some houses of God, you've walked into houses of worship, and the church is not immune to this, right? This is not something that's like you only encounter this whenever you're out and about doing your daily, but the church itself has got some growth to do. And so I wanted to ask this next question, just to open this up for you guys. For all of us, I just love how Jesus talks about how the peacemakers are blessed. And I guess my question is, how do we become more peacemakers and not just peacekeepers when it comes to this sort of thing? Because silence, it sounds like, is not the answer. And it's easy to just keep your mouth shut and say, somebody else will deal with it. Not my issue. I'm just trying to keep the peace here. When I don't know if that's what we're called to. I don't think we're called to just keeping the peace, but I think we're called to making peace. And so I'm curious from your perspective, how can we make peace and not just keep it?
So I've been thinking about this one a lot, and I think that as the body of Christ, it's a shame that we have to say, oh, it's a black church or it's a white church, when the culture is the kingdom.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's the culture. We're supposed to be ambassadors of the culture, of the kingdom of heaven, of the kingdom of God. Okay, I'm not saying that when you come in you don't see color, because that's ignorant as well.
Sure.
The excuse of, oh, I don't see color. No, that God made us all equally in his image and likeness.
Yeah.
Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Indian, he made us all. I think we need to challenge ourselves to, does it bother you? And do you want to be treated like that? Put yourself in someone else's shoes. You know what I mean? Walk a mile in a black person's shoes and see, okay, do I want to be treated like my African American brothers and sisters? Not just people. We have to challenge our whole theology, I think.
Yeah.
And our whole ideology. There's traditions of men that have been set up for quite a long time, and we need the Holy Spirit on the inside of us to stand up, to help us to speak out,
Yeah.
to challenge, hey, listen, you passed me the other day. I don't know if something was wrong with you, but I was standing there, and you said nothing to me. If I was a person off the street and I was lost, would I have been saved? Probably not, because I wouldn't want to come back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But my question is, so you say to speak up, but If we speak up as young black men, we get beaten. So, what is a way that we can speak up, but do it safely?
Yeah. It's very difficult for, as we just spoke about, we don't want to become the angry people. And I think that we need our other brothers and sisters alongside of us to also give us a voice.
Yeah.
We've been silenced. We've had what seems to be, and not trying to be very vivid, but what happened to George Floyd has been happening to us for generations.
Yeah.
We need our brothers and sisters of other ethnicities to come alongside us and say, this is wrong. We have a platform. I'm not saying to make it political, but if we look at the verses in Luke 10 where he's talking about loving your neighbor as yourself, if you see something going on,
Yeah, it really doesn't have to be much more complicated than that, right?
you know,
Yeah.
be the good Samaritan
Yeah.
alongside your brother,
Yeah.
alongside your sisters.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Just the other day, my mom showed me this post about Jane Elliott. She was a race educator, and she was talking to a classroom full of students, saying, if any of you students would like to be treated as your black counterparts, please stand up. No one stands up. She says, you didn't hear my question. If you would like to be treated the same as your African American counterparts, please stand up. No one stands up. So she says, if you see what's happening and you're not doing anything about it, then there's a problem here.
Yeah.
Why, if you see what's going on and you're not doing anything about it, why?
Yeah.
If you don't want it to happen to you, why are you allowing it to happen to other people?
Yeah. You may be answering this question by saying that, but I just, it's a little off script here, but what would you say to those people that are maybe hesitant to speak out? You know, they either don't know what to say, they're afraid maybe that they don't know, like, what will be offensive, what won't be. They're just timid. You know, what would you say to those people that are like, they're not the first to be posting something online or jump in the discussion here? What would you say to their silence? And then, what if it wasn't totally ill-intentioned, but they're just maybe a little timid? I feel like I know so many people that are like that.
Don't hesitate, because your voice does matter. Regardless of how many people you have following you, how many people you have viewing your live, your voice matters. Always speak out on something that you believe in.
It's good.
Don't be wrapped up in a bubble.
Yeah.
We live in small towns, so it's easy to think we're safe from everything. We live in like Sunnyvale bubbles, Forney bubbles,
Yeah.
Kaufman bubbles, and we try to stay oblivious to what's going on around us when in fact it's happening in our towns. It's happening right in front of us.
Yeah.
So if you are hesitant, just talk to someone. Talk to an African American friend. Talk to not even African American, a Mexican friend, because they go through it as well.
Yeah.
It's not just blacks. Hispanics are going through it as well with immigration problems and being labeled as immigrants.
Yeah.
Not all Hispanics
That's
are
good.
immigrants.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not just blacks. It's everyone. We can come together and we can talk about it. And when we talk about something, we have to not only understand each other, we have to act on it.
Yeah. That's good. You know, Sea Life. Terry, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say that for I've talked to some people about this, and that some people of white people are almost scared to say something
Yeah.
for fear of saying it the wrong
way. Yeah.
And then in this world that we live in, this online world that we live in, there's people just waiting to attack the words, not the intent behind the words, but the words themselves. They'll dissect it and chop it up into a way.
Sure.
Well, it's not even what I meant to say. I was trying to agree with you. I've literally seen posts where it goes down like 12, 20 lines of replies back and forth, and it's like I was trying to agree with what you were saying.
Yeah.
And it was just intense. So that's why sometimes you'll see people just shy away from doing it. But the reality is we can't afford to shy away anymore.
Yeah.
We can't. We just can't. It's wrong is wrong, right is right. You're a believer. You have a certain set that you're called to,
Yeah.
beliefs that you're called to, and you need to live by them.
That's good. That's really good.
The fact is we need help.
Yeah.
They have a problem with African Americans and minorities protesting. They have a problem with the rioting, which I don't condone. But when you've been silenced for so long and you know nothing else to do, what else is there to have your voice heard?
Think about the soldiers in Afghanistan and all of the things they come back with. It's PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that we live with the stress of, okay, I can't speak about it.
Yeah, it's traumatic,
If I get frustrated about it, no one's helping me through it. No one is coming alongside me. I don't know what else to do. And what do?
Yeah.
They explode.
Yeah.
They implode.
Yeah.
And that's what you're seeing with the rioting. I'm not saying that it's right, the stealing, but you're seeing a group of people who don't know how to express their frustration in a way that they feel like they're being seen and heard. And so that's what happens.
So let me ask you guys, just kind of winding this thing down, landing the plane here. I mean, there's so much to discuss here. You know, if you're in your small group right now, I know that there's more than enough material and ideas and maybe some things you've never even heard of that you can tackle and talk through with your group right now. But I want to wrap this up with just one question here that will maybe summarize this whole experience. But you know, when you look at Sea Life as a whole, our church is incredible. I mean, I think everybody here would agree that Sea Life is a really special place. Yes. And you know, one thing that as I look out across the crowds, one thing that I notice is that it's predominantly white people that are over here. Love my white friends, love my black friends, love all my students, crazy about them. But this is a group of predominantly white people that's over here. And so I don't know if I am able to do this. I don't think that they are able to really speak into this experience. But for you guys, if you were to really whittle this down for a teenager, somebody that's 13 to 18 years old, and just give them one piece of advice, just one true north for them to try to follow in terms of how do they tackle racism when they see it, when they hear it, when they experience it. What's the one piece of advice that you would leave them with? Maybe something you learned along the way that has always guided you along.
John 13 and 35, something in that line. They will know you by the love that you show.
Man, that's good. Yeah.
I mean, if we're teaching our children the word, we have to teach them how to walk it out on their own. Mm-hmm. And if you see someone and you see them going through, just let them know, you know, the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, kindness. Show them that. Show them that you care. You know, let them know that they are seen and they're loved.
Yeah.
You know, and it helps.
It's big.
Yeah.
It's really big. Yeah, I love that.
I think for me, it's the story in the Bible of the lady at the well, the woman at the well. I heard it said differently the other day where the speaker said that Jesus got between the accusers and the accused. He stood between.
Oh, that's
you know
so
what I
good.
mean?
That'll
And
preach
so-
all day, man. That's good.
Compassion is needed.
Yeah.
And compassion isn't just compassion for you or compassion for you. It's just compassion is needed. Start to do some internal checks on your heart and see where you are personally. This isn't a white thing or a black thing. This is a you thing. You're the one that makes the change. I can't make LaToya's change, but I can make my change.
That's good. Yeah, it's really good. What else?
We stumped KJ.
Did we stump you, KJ?
Never.
If there's one thing that you could leave our teenagers with and just say, this is it. If you could just remember this will help things. This will make things better. This will be a step in the right direction.
I really don't know. Wow. Advice I can give. Don't be afraid. Don't be hesitant. if the topic wasn't about race? If it was about something you had more knowledge of, would you be more willing to talk about it?
Man, that's so good and so true.
It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have as much knowledge of something,
Yeah.
but it's not okay to continue
Yeah.
not having knowledge. Grow, research. If you don't have anyone, look it up online. Find someone who can look it up online. There's always someone willing to help. Talk to a pastor, because that's what they're here for, to help you grow. And don't always rely on your pastor. Grow in the word yourself. Know the word for yourself. And just continue to walk the walk that God has set for you. And that's really all you can do. And yeah.
That's good. Let me know when you want to intern at the Forney campus, because we got a spot, all right? I'm not going to let Tyler steal you. What about you?
I really have nothing to say on that, but most people that are going to be watching this probably follow me on social media. If you are scared to speak out, text me. Do not be afraid. I will answer any question you have wholeheartedly and honestly. With no bias at all. I'll tell you exactly how it is. So ask away.
If I could add one more thing
Yeah.
really quickly. Be careful what you're taking in. Be careful what you're taking in on social media. There's algorithms that are set up to show you more of what you watch. So if you watch violent protests, guess what's the next video on your feed is going to be? Another violent protest, another violent protest. So if you're already thinking a certain way, it's just going to feed that fuel. So be careful what you're taking in.
Yeah, I think it's true. Like, what's coming in it's coming out, right? Yeah, no, that's really good. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed tonight. I know it's totally different. I know that this is not our normal format, but my hope, my prayer is that this will begin some conversations in some groups around Forney, Sunnyvale, Kaufman, Rockwall, all across East Dallas, that are going to eventually impact the world. And if we can start to know our neighbor better, we can start to love our neighbor better, we can start to honor God in a bigger and better way. So in your groups tonight, I hope you guys have a great evening, and we want you all to know that we're praying for you, we love you, and we really hope that this is the start of something really special. We're going to see you guys back here next week. We love you. See you then.